Hey guys, what's up? And today I'm going to do a review of the actually very much not new, but the 2014 heavy metal album Ghost, Meliora. So Ghost, if you don't know them, they are a Linköping, Sweden-based heavy metal band. And that's all you need to know. Yeah, there's actually way more that you need to know to understand the music of this band. First of all, pretty much everyone in this band except of the vocalist is masked. And they are called nameless ghouls because they basically don't have names. They are basically named Alpha, Omega. I forgot. I know one of them is Martin Persner, because he's the person who unmasked himself. And another person is Simon Söderberg, I believe. But hey, a lot of the members are changed now. And the vocalist, however, always stays the same. And that is Papa Emeritus. However, like from a narrative standpoint, like from a ghost standpoint, if you know what I mean, they change their frontman time to time. You know, frontman per album. So for their debut album, they have Papa Emeritus, and then they have Papa Emeritus 2, and then they have 3 on this album because it's their third project, I believe. But still, don't freak out. They don't actually change their frontman. It's actually still the same person, Tobias Forge or Tobias Forge, however you want to pronounce it. And they're also satanic. Yeah. But, not the satanic that you would normally expect, you know, not the Behemoth, Gorgoroth kind of satanic, but they are actually more entertaining, more funny, more sleazy and slick kind of satanic that isn't that toxic or evil, even though their music sounds very evil. And also, they are from Sweden. And they are one of the reasons why I believe that Sweden has some of the best music in the world. You know, ABBA is from Sweden. The Knife and Fever Ray is from Sweden. Avicii, rest in peace, is also from Sweden. And much more. And they are also a very special band in the heavy metal scene in the early 2010s because they make awesome, melodic, smart, poppy metal tracks that not many heavy metal bands during that time makes. And for their debut album, it's fantastic. It's really raw, it's really sinister. And their sophomore album, however, Infesti Sumam, is a little bit underwhelming. You know, it's a little bit too clean and sanitized. You know, the charm is kind of lost. However, there are still amazing tracks in that album, such as Year Zero or Monstrance Clock. But on this album, Ghost tries to make sinister and evil and raw rock tracks while making some poppy and smart melodies at the same time, and that's why this album is probably their best album yet. You know, this album is seasoned with these eerie harps, boomy drums, galactic keyboards, shimmery guitars, and they all mix so well together. They shine together, and in a very punchy and fun way. And the instrumentals are really well arranged on this album. I can go as far as to say that the instrumentals on this album is somewhat elegant and smart. And there's also a lot of musical styles worked in this album, from pop rock to psych to prog to classical music even. And yeah, this album is also very cinematic, it's very theatrical, and the musical styles are so versatile and diverse on this album. And that's why it's such a refreshing album, and it's one of the best heavy metal albums of the decade. Period. The album starts off with Spirit, which is an amazing, a very refreshing and awakening album opener, in my opinion. Spirit. first starts off with some sharp show-stealing drums that sets up the atmosphere for the track and also the rest of the album. And then the guitar kicks in and it has this Halloween flavored melody to it. And then the song starts to build up the tension and it builds to the climax, and wow, it's glorious. The song ends gloriously with these glistening guitars. The second track is From the Pinnacle to the Pit. From the Pinnacle to the Pit.
You are cast out from the heavens to the ground, black and feathers falling down.
And wow, it has a very grimy, distorted, sinister bass line, while the guitars are really wild and doodly. It's crazy. But speaking of sinister, wow, this is probably the most sinister and evil track on the album. It really sounds intoxicating. However, I didn't like this track as much the first time I've listened to it because there are not much progression in the music, so it sounds more like a soundtrack than an actual song. But however, when it hits the chorus, everything's changed. It's very powerful and visceral, yet fun and entertaining, and I just love how the drums and the guitars are like marching during the chorus. The second track is From the Pinnacle to the Pit. From the Pinnacle to the Pit. And wow, it has a very grimy, distorted, sinister bass line, while the guitars are really wild and doodly. It's crazy. But speaking of sinister, wow, this is probably the most sinister and evil track on the album. It really sounds intoxicating. However, I didn't like this track as much the first time I've listened to it because there are not much progression in the music, so it sounds more like a soundtrack than an actual song. But however, when it hits the chorus, everything's changed. It's very powerful and visceral, yet fun and entertaining, and I just love how the drums and the guitars are like marching during the chorus. You are cast out from the heavens to the ground. And after that little interlude, we get Cerise, which is basically the magnum opus of Ghost and simply my favorite Ghost track ever.
I can feel the thunder that's breaking in your heart. I can see through the scars inside you.
And it starts off with these ghoulish, creepy guitar bass, and then harsh guitar riffs at first. And then as the song progresses, we get this galactic, stargazing, sky-breaking pianos, and the vocals become much softer, and it's just a very beautiful song all of a sudden. The transition in this song is epic. And then there's also a moment in this track where it all quiets down, it's just pure silence, and then we get this lone vocal from Papa Emeritus or Tobias Forge, and wow, it's just a very unexpectedly beautiful and powerful song and fun song at the same time. It's Ghost in its most ghostly, I suppose. And the lyrics are incredibly poetic and manipulative at the same time. Can't you see that you're lost without me? And overall the vocal performance, it's beautiful. I can feel the thunder that's breaking in your heart. Alright, the next track is Spuk Sonat. And it's basically a small interlude which has creepy harps. And then it smoothly transitions onto He Is, which is incredibly rare and different for Ghost, in my opinion, because it has a very acoustic intro and then it builds up to such an emotional and soulful climax. It doesn't sound that heavy metal, it doesn't sound that rock. In fact, it sounds like, I don't know. It sounds like those religious worshiping songs, chants, but instead of being Catholic or Christian, it's satanic. But it doesn't sound that evil at the same time. It sounds way more expressive and natural and uplifting as well.
He's the shining in the light without whom I cannot see.
Wow, the lyrics on this track is very sickening and again manipulative, because this track really worships, the devil hardcore, saying how he's the shining, he's the light, he's insurrection, he's the force, he's alma mater. And however, this track, I don't know if it's true or not, but this track is originally titled She Is, and it is written for someone else. So it's kind of funny how they changed the noun, and the entire song feels different. The direction of the song feels different, but overall, still, musically speaking, it is a great track. I'm loving it. And then we have Mummy Dust, which is an incredibly creepy and dorky track with some stargazing thrash metal riffs. However, this track is really hard to get into because it is not the most compelling, the most meaty, fruity ghost song ever. In fact, it is very much not. It sounds really hollow, really windy, and it sounds more like a soundtrack than an actual song. But as we all listen through this song, it grows on you, kinda. I was riding on a wolf's back to corrupt humanity. And yeah, this track, it's a really special track. And then we have Majesty, which has amazing verses, to be honest. They sound incredibly great. Again, I love the marching drums and the guitars. They go really well together. However, the chorus is a little underwhelming. It's a little disorienting, to be honest, because of the chord changes. But nonetheless, it's still a great track. Just not as great as other tracks on the album. And then we have Absolution, which is a great, comeback for the album, for the pace of the album. The album dives a little low during Mummy Dust and Majesty, but it goes back up with Absolution. First of all, amazing jams, dude. Amazing jams. The guitars, the chord progressions, they are sweet.
Put your hands up and reach for the sky. Cry for absolution.
And wow, the verses are great. The pre-chorus are really quiet, but they also build up the tension. And then the chorus is very explosive. It's really expressive, and I also love it. And again, the guitar riff is really sinister. But through this sinister guitar riff, a good melody is brought out, and that is also what makes this track really magical, in my opinion. And then we have Devil Church, which is also like Spooksonat, except it is pianos, I believe. Creepy, atmospheric, moody pianos, and other sounds mixed together. And then we have Deus in Absentia, which is an incredibly theatrical and dramatic ending for a Ghost album. And I kind of like how comedic and funny this track sounds. I kind of do. It's really weird at first. It sounds kind of out of place at first, but as you go along with the track, again, it sounds really meaty and fruity. I like these ticking sounds in between these strikes of guitars and drums, and overall it's a pretty funny apocalyptic dystopian track. Like, the world is on fire. And of course, later on they released another EP, I guess, which is titled Pope Star, and it is basically a bunch of covers, except for the first track, which is Square Hammer. And in the meantime, I want to just talk about Square Hammer and how cool this song is. This song is basically the song, the first Ghost song that I really dug and dig. You know, I really like it. It's just such a kick-ass, catchy rock song. And this track is actually the very first track that got me into this band, Ghost. Are you in the square? Are you in the level? Overall, this is a really solid album. It is both blasphemous but yet devilish. It is both poetic but yet manipulative. And overall, the lyrics are really nice. The vocal performance is really soulful and expressive. The performance itself, the guitars, the drums, they go so well together. They're really well arranged. They're really well mixed at the same time. The songwriting is really clever. It's really fun and entertaining, but yet devilish and chaotic and nasty. And overall, it is an extremely exciting album, and it creates this world of Ghost, and it lets you enter in with open arms. Come in and join us in this Meliora. You know, Meliora means better in Latin, I think, and indeed, this album is better. It's better than a lot of the heavy metal albums right nowadays. And yeah, I made this review because I heard that they will be I know that they will be releasing a new album, prequel. It's like prequel, but with another LE in the back. Prequele, I don't know how to pronounce it, but they will be releasing this album on June 4th, I believe. So I'm just making this review in advance, just to give a heads up. But yeah, I'm also pretty excited for that album. I don't know which direction will they go, but yeah. The worst track is unfortunately Majesty, and the best is Cerise. I am giving Ghost's Meliora an 8 to a 9 out of 10. So, have you listened to Ghost's Meliora? From 1 to 10, how much would you rate it? Like it, and subscribe if you want more.